There are many characters in The Rookie that are universally loved by the fan base, but there are also characters that are universally hated as well. In this video, we're going to go over 5 of the most loved characters in the show, as well as 5 of the most hated characters in the show. Starting with one of the most lovable characters in the show, Lucy Chen, the kindest and one of the most selfless characters. Since the beginning of the show, Lucy has been a fan favorite due to the compassion that she shows others, even if it feels like they didn't deserve it at the time. She was nice to almost everybody, including some of the criminals that she would encounter. Lucy is able to see the good in every person that she meets, which has positively affected the people around her, including the criminals that she is given the chance to redeem themselves. The biggest example of this is her friendship and almost big sister-like bond with Tamara Collins. Tamara tried to steal her car, and instead of arresting her for it, Lucy takes her under her wing. She buys her some new clothes and helps her out by allowing her to live in and drive around the car. Tamara even ends up selling the car shortly after Lucy signs over the title to her. And once again, instead of getting angry at Tamara and cutting her off, Lucy still shows compassion for her and continues to help her. Eventually, after Jackson's death and Lucy having an extra room to spare, she lets Tamara move in with her to get her off the streets. Nobody else in the show is this kind, thoughtful, and compassionate for others, and that's one of the main reasons why everybody seems to love her. But I can't talk about why people love Lucy without bringing up the other reason why people are so attached to her, the Chenford ship. One of the most popular aspects of the show is the relationship dynamic between Lucy and Tim. People have loved seeing these two characters grow on each other over the years, and they have loved watching them have to navigate such a taboo and complex relationship. Her endless kindness affected Tim in such a positive way that everybody thought Lucy was the perfect woman for him. And this made fans grapple onto Lucy even harder. It's undeniable that she is one of the most loved characters in the show, and I don't think it's unreasonable to say that she may be the most loved. On the flip side, one of the most hated characters in the show in modern seasons is Seth Ridley, the compulsive liar who allowed these lies to jeopardize people's lives and put others, including himself, in serious danger. Seth was introduced in the beginning of season 7 as one of the 2 new rookies on the force. But one thing that stood out about him was that he always had a story to explain why something was bothering him. Like, for example, when they first saw the OD on patrol and Seth vomited on the crime scene, he said that a past girlfriend OD'd. At first, nobody had any reason to believe there was anything wrong with this, as this was the first time anything like this was mentioned. But then he started to slip. In another instance, at a multiple vehicle car accident in season 7 episode 4, Darkness Falling, Seth mentions that his girlfriend in high school died in a car accident. The problem with this is that earlier, Seth said that his girlfriend died of an OD. Lucy checks him on this, and Seth panics by saying it was a different girlfriend. While he thought he saved it, Lucy still thought he was suspicious. But one lie tipped him over the edge. The biggest lie he told was telling everybody that his cancer returned, but he makes it clear that the cancer is early on and he can still be on patrol. This has Lucy and a couple of others becoming much more suspicious of if this is true or not due to his past lies. Eventually, they decide that in order to make sure he's telling the truth, they make him take a blood test to confirm the cancer, or they would fire him. Seth decides to double down and threaten to sue the department, then does, and comes back. What's even crazier is he lied again to get back in by saying the doctor lied to him, when in reality, he paid this doctor to corroborate his story. But lying isn't the only reason that Seth is so hated. In season 7 episode 8, Wildfire, Seth was in charge of keeping updated on where the fire was going. And at one point, he got a call saying that the fire was on Eagle Rock Road and they had to shut it down. He writes this down but neglected to phone it in. This means that when Tim and Lucy went up to Eagle Rock Road, they went in without knowing that the fire was engulfing that road, and this put their lives into jeopardy. Once word about their impending danger spreads, Seth realizes his mistake, and instead of owning up to this, he rips out the page, crumbles it up, and disposes of it to cover his own butt. There were many reasons to hate Seth, but someone who was originally disliked and turned it around was Selena Juarez, a very eccentric cop who went from being one of the most annoying characters to someone the audience began to adore. In the beginning of her run through season 5 and into season 6, There were a lot of things that people generally disliked about her character. The horoscopes, the auras, and the other small things that piled up that made people believe she was one of those people. And fans believed that she shouldn't be a cop if she was going to use that stuff in her police work. But through the end of season 6 into season 7, as her training ends and she gets promoted to P2, she's turned into almost a completely different cop. Sure, she still believed in the things that made people not like her, but she completely took them out of her police work and started using her natural intuition to become a very well-versed cop that the fans began to be impressed by. Even as a rookie, she was a very capable cop, with one example again being the multiple vehicle car accident we mentioned earlier. Nolan made her take control of that scene, and she did it flawlessly. She was able to manage everybody properly as a rookie, and this made people see her character differently. People began to find humor in Selena's quirkiness rather than distaste, since these things were separated from her police work. The fans started to see these things more as eccentric quirks rather than annoying traits that shouldn't be involved in the show. However, another reason people began to change their opinion of her was when we got to explore more of her storyline with her sister's murder and her mom. It was hard for the audience not to feel sympathy for her during these episodes, and it was a great tipping point for her. All in all, Selena's jump from a hated character to a loved one is really great to see, and I like her a lot personally. However, someone who's definitely overstayed their welcome on the show is Monica Stevens, the crooked lawyer turned evil criminal mastermind whose story really should have ended over a whole season ago. Monica's story started in season 5 at the height of the Elijah Stone arc, where she agreed to represent him because Elijah agreed to pay her a lot of money to do so. We also find out that she is Wesley Evers' ex-fiance, which, since Wesley is a well-liked character himself, people already had a reason to dislike her from the very beginning. She ignored his warnings about Elijah and went on to be an extremely corrupt lawyer, making Wesley and the LAPD's lives super difficult. But then after Elijah's arrest, Monica took center stage and basically took his place, for some reason. We never really get the reason why she jumped from being a crooked lawyer to an evil mastermind, but I digress. Later on in the show, she is running giant dozen-person operations, including hacking data cards, having bombs on buses with hostages, and kidnapping a loose end to a whole other country. None of it ever made any sense from an audience standpoint, which made fans dislike her character as they deemed her unnecessary and just an Elijah Stone 2.0. To the fans, she should have just been ended off when Elijah's reign ended, or she should have stuck as a crooked lawyer, making her another hated character on the show. But now we're heading back to season 2, where we were introduced to Nyla Harper, one of the most charismatic and loved fan favorites of the entire show. Nyla was a character introduced to fill in the role as Nolan's TO after Bishop's disappearance, and immediately people began to prefer Nyla over Bishop, as Nyla was a lot more complex of a character with an extremely rich backstory. People loved the way that Nyla fights for the people that she cares about. One example of this is with her daughter Lila. Before the show, Nyla used to work on undercover operations, and this was extremely risky work, as if anybody from her missions found her actual identity, her and her family would be in jeopardy. So after her and her ex-husband Donovan split up, he took full custody of her. This made her a shell of a person and made her want to change her life forever. She ended up switching career paths, taking a demotion by becoming a training officer and fixing her life around to be able to be in Lila's life again. And she was determined to make this happen. Eventually, Donovan acknowledged what she's been doing, and Lila was allowed back in her life, making her a much happier person and winning over fans by the millions. Another example of this is the way she is with her husband, James. Despite their differences, Nyla and James love each other very much, and they would do anything for one another. And even though the pairing is quite controversial, fans still love Nyla for her dedication to her marriage and how she protects her husband. Remember when I mentioned Monica a bit earlier in the video? Well, if she could have gotten the treatment that Simone got after the backlash her character received, the fan base would have been much happier, as Simone was found to be an extremely annoying character who didn't deserve the spin-off she received. Simone was introduced in the season 4 episode Simone, where this episode, along with the following episode Enervo, was backdoor pilot episodes for the spin-off show The Rookie Feds that only went on for one season before getting canceled for having a very negative reception and low viewership. This was because people disliked the Simone character and found her too annoying and too energetic to be an FBI agent. Another one of the things that people disliked about her was her voice and how she spoke. They felt the way that she spoke to criminals and witnesses was unprofessional, with an overuse of honey and sweetie that got on fans' nerves really quickly. People compared her to Nolan, saying that she's basically Nolan without humility or the relatability, causing her show to get canned super quickly, and now you can't even watch it on Hulu anymore. The only way to watch it is by paying per episode to watch it on platforms like Amazon, which, let's be real, nobody's paying to watch that. But a character that almost every fan of The Rookie would pay to see more of is Tim Bradford, a character who the audience loved in every iteration of his character, no matter how he acted. In the beginning of the show, Tim was a hard-headed, no BS training officer that made Lucy's life a living hell during her training. He would have these Tim tests to get into Lucy's head and try to catch her off guard. While a few fans weren't exactly a fan of this approach, many others thought it was either hilarious or a very effective approach at training a rookie. As the seasons went on though, Tim began to soften up, especially around Lucy. Tim didn't realize it, but Lucy's positive and cheerful energy was rubbing off on him, and the feelings began to fester. This is really when Chenford began to become a legitimate ship, which had fans going crazy for them and the show. After Chenford officially got together, Lucy and Tim quickly became the two most popular characters of the show and catapulted the Rookie into the mainstream. After Tim broke up with Lucy in season 6, Tim realized that he wronged her, and he decided that he wanted to become even better and more vulnerable for her. So other than when he's training Penn, his new rookie, he has become much more emotionally open than he used to be, not just to Lucy, but to all of his friends too. Fans were infatuated with the transformation and fell in love with Tim even more, making him possibly in the top 3 most loved characters in the entire show. However, somebody who did not have an evolution to his character and remains one of the most hated characters is Doug Stanton, the super racist cop that became Jackson's training officer and put Jackson's life and career in danger throughout the entire 3rd season. There's a couple of reasons why people hated Doug. One was within the show, and the other was with the writing of the character. Doug was extremely racist from the beginning, making remarks about people like them, as well as detaining and later arresting an entire family for reasonable suspicion that didn't even exist. This put Jackson in an extremely uncomfortable situation because he felt that he had no power against Doug, and that these were very heavy accusations that Jackson would be making. So Jackson decided he just had to deal with it. Unfortunately, this ended up almost costing Jackson his life. In season 3, episode 5, Lockdown, Jackson and Doug take on a call to Manor Apartments, an extremely dangerous neighborhood. Jackson is jumped by 4 guys, and even though Doug had the chance to save Jackson, he didn't. He just retreated and watched it happen, showing he had no respect for Jackson. But the other reason that Doug was hated was because fans thought he was written extremely poorly and that he was basically just a racist caricature rather than giving him any depth or subtlety to his beliefs. Doug felt like a very forced character that was out of place in the show. Yes, racism was a very big issue at this time, but a character depicting this issue should have been written with more complexity, which made Doug a very disliked character from a writing standpoint on top of the racism in itself. But before we head on to the next pair of loved and hated characters, I just wanted to talk about some characters that are super controversial. Characters that are both loved and hated heavily by the fan base. Pete Nolan. This is a character that is mainly controversial because while people do love his character in small doses, people would be very annoyed when seeing him more than once per season. So the show didn't show him very much anymore. He hasn't been around since season 4 though, so the fan base doesn't really have to worry about him being used too much, though I would really like to see him again. But they do have to worry about Skip Tracer Randy, where the fan base feels the same way about him as they do with Pete, where Randy is fun to have every once in a while, but if he's in more than an episode or 2 in a season, people get annoyed. People don't like Randy because he's just a character who causes problems for the rest of the cast. But some fans love the charisma that Randy has, so his reputation remains very mixed. Oscar Hutchinson. Some fans dislike Oscar because he's a sociopath that makes cases harder for Nolan and the rest of the LAPD, but others love him because he's extremely entertaining when he does it. In my opinion, he knows how to crack a joke, and he is a hilarious recurring villain. Now that we just did that rapid fire of controversial characters, we move on to one of the most universally loved characters in the show once again, Angela Lopez. One of the most diligent and passionate women for her family, as well as being one of the most badass characters in the show. Angela is the entire package, and fans eat her up, especially in combination with her husband Wesley, making them a very notorious power couple in the fanbase. She's someone that the fans love to see in action the most, as she always seems to find her way out of situations that she finds herself in, and she does it in the most fierce ways possible. One of the best examples is when her and Nyla went to take down Elijah Stone during a deal between him and Abril in the season 5 episode, The Enemy Within. Elijah has Nyla down and is about to kill her, but then Lopez gets involved and engages in a fight with him. This gives Nyla enough time to recover, and both of them take him down and arrest him, ending a multi-season arc for good in the span of minutes. Another thing that fans love a lot with Angela is her best friendship with Tim, where they are ride or die for each other. One of the best examples of this is in season 6 when Tim's military past resurfaces, and Tim is constantly stalking in his car while waiting for Ray. He was doing this for days, and he was getting tired and hopeless, but then Lopez comes to help him out by being there with him.
What are you doing? Talk.
This goes sideways and you're anywhere near it, you could be fired.
If Lucy gets fired, it's a problem. If I get fired, I start living off my husband's trust fund and call it 1 o'clock.
This was a super wholesome moment that shows their strong friendship very well, and is one of the reasons people love Lopez as much as they do. But there's a somewhat new character that was introduced recently that has garnered a lot of hate, Raj, the creator of Daddy Cop, who just can't stop being the most annoying person on the show. Raj initially was introduced in season 5 as a one-time gag character, where in the introduction of the episode, he and his band played a song called Daddy Cop, a song that poked fun at Officer Nolan and also referenced Officer Juarez a couple of times. People thought this bit was hilarious, and so they brought it back. In season 6 episode The Hammer, they one-upped the original song by adding a guitar solo and a choir singing the chorus. This, once again, was a massive success for the show, as well as a massive success for the creator of the song and the son of the showrunner, Xander Hawley. But this is where things go south. The show didn't understand what people liked about the bit. It was the song, not the actor. In season 7 episode 10, Chaos Agent, Raj is introduced as Selena's new boyfriend, who just can't seem to stop making insulting songs about other people. People found this and his entire character very annoying, as this was his sole personality trait, and he had nothing else of value to add to any scene that he was in. This was on top of people not liking how he was only introduced as a recurring character because of nepotism, since he is the son of Alexi Hawley, the creator of the show. However, something miraculous happened recently. In season 7 episode 16, The Return, they added more personality to Raj, and Raj was able to crack a few jokes that really landed with the audience. People started to take note of this, and their dislike for the character is now starting to subside, and his character is starting to be redeemed in the audience's eyes. I'm really interested to see how the show handles him in the future though, because things can change with just one single episode. That's all the loved and hated characters of The Rookie. Make sure to subscribe and leave a like for more videos like this one. Thanks for watching.